Welcome to episode 88 of Nobody Special.
On this episode, we talk about extending grace to John Crist and handling public sin.
The Gospel Outpost presents Nobody Special. Hey everyone, welcome to Nobody Special, two nobodies talking about the somebody who matters. I'm Danny, the host and news journalist of Nobody Special.
And I'm Caleb, you're the host of Nobody Special. This is a podcast where two generations of people talk about God, pop culture, politics, and everything in between, all while not taking any of it too seriously. Yeah.
Hi Caleb.
Hello.
How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty tired, pretty good.
So Caleb, there's been this thing going around the internet.
Yes.
And it's been, there's been some good commentary on it. I've thought that it's finally come full circle that now, okay, boomer is a derogatory slur. It's like, okay, boomer. And I'm going to be honest, there's part of me that thinks that's really funny. I'm a millennial. I'm an older, I'm on the older end of it, but I am in that age group, and to have been blamed for everything for the past decade, there's the fleshly side of me that really thinks the okay boomer jokes are very, very funny.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Now, all that to say, someone called me boomer the other day, and I felt as if it would have been inappropriate to punch a 17-year-old who works at an ice cream shop in the face.
Ice cream shop? What
Yeah.
ice cream shop?
The one in whatever. It doesn't matter. No one here cares. It's there's an ice cream shop. It's got a kid in it, and I told we've been talking about the new Kanye West album. I'm not saying that for SEO. It's what we're talking about, and I told him it's like it's a great album. It's not his best album. I think his earlier album it was the better. He said, "Oh, that's a really boomer thing to say." I'm like,
it is a boomer thing to say.
Okay,
You're such a boomer.
I don't know what that means though. And then,
such an old person thing to say.
He mispronounced the name of the track. He's like, oh, probably my favorite track is Slaya.
Oh man, buddy,
dude,
it's all right.
Are you okay?
It's all right, man.
Slaya.
That's not even like the right order of letters.
Yeah.
But
Slaya.
I mean, I don't want to like make fun of him too much, just in case he's like dyslexic or something. But
hadn't considered that.
Wow. Yeah.
He called me boomer. I'm not a boomer. I actually I don't appreciate the title of being a millennial, and that's probably the most millennial thing about me. It's
people don't like being assigned titles. Yeah. That's what it is.
So, Caleb, anything fun been going on in your world that anyone mislabel you as anything? So
nope.
Yeah. It's been a crazy few days of news, and I'm just gonna be honest. There was a lot of it I just didn't want to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, I can bring it up briefly. Donald Trump Jr., he went on The View, and I'm like, all right, I don't know how they thought that was going to go, but it went exactly how you thought it was going to go.
I don't even know what any of those words mean.
Donald Trump Jr.? Or
I know what
View?
that means, but like The View?
It's a show that I don't want to get into my full opinions on.
Yeah.
Podcast.
That's fine with me. Let's continue on.
And then two pastors got into a spat on Twitter.
A spat?
A spat.
What does that mean? I'm just so confused right now.
A spat.
What is a spat?
It's kind of it's
a spitting matter?
No. Well,
they spat at each other?
Verbally, yes. Spat.
They spat
no, do I have to look up the definition of
rhymes?
spat? It's a spat. They got into a spat.
It's spat.
An argument, a disagreement, but it was just kind of as if they're spitting on each other. Spat. A petty quarrel.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
A spat.
So,
I kind of like the way that sounds.
One of them dug up a clip on another from like a decade ago or something and called him a racist.
Yeah, that's how things work, you know.
And now, but it was like two pastors. It's like, can we not, y'all? Can we not?
Two pastors, ugh. That's a whole nother thing. The fact that you are not acknowledging that sanctification is a thing in your pastoral role on Twitter. Ugh, step down, my dude.
Yeah. Gosh, I was going to say who it was, but now that both of us have said the things we've said, really don't want to do that.
I just went real harsh real quick.
I know. Wow. I was confused because I thought I was speaking at first. It was so harsh. Anyone need harsh truth? I got it. I got you covered.
Making me spit out my coffee. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, I mean, they probably don't need to step down, but consider your ways, my bro, my fellow heathen.
Yeah. And then there's the whole Johnny Mac, Beth Moore thing, telling her to go home. That, to be honest...
Didn't we talk about it?
No, we didn't.
Wow.
That's the thing.
That's right.
And I still don't want to... It's been a ton of this... Hold on. There's words I can't say on the podcast. They're not swears. I can't say the C word for poop. Because I'm not as unredeemed as some people. We're not allowed to say that on a podcast, and you know that.
We say that all the time now.
You say that all the time.
No, you've said it too. I'm going to point fingers. I'm going to point fingers.
Well, every time they do, there's always 3 pointing back.
That's true.
But if you're doing finger guns, it's okay. No, it's...
Wait, what? Oh. Wow. That's
yeah,
clever.
I've been trying to figure out how do I want to talk about this, and I was like, I don't, because there's 3 different issues to talk about that in one time.
Yeah.
And I'm not prepared to get into the complementarian, egalitarian kind of debate.
Yeah,
and I'm actually trying to find more of an expert or different perspective on it that I think it would be good to have. So, to everybody that asks is like, yeah, no, I know it happened. I just don't want to talk about it because it's Christian infighting.
Yep.
And if one of them is being a false teacher, when again, Johnny Mac would disagree with me on this, that well, she is being a false teacher. All right, but let's not. You know, like there's different ways to call people out, and I just don't think this is.
What, publicly, like on the internet? So the way that he did it.
The way that he did it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so what's...
So there's just been a lot going on, and it's just been really...
Right.
It's been really sad in the news.
I haven't been paying attention.
It's not great, man. It's not great.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to do show notes yesterday, and you know, this story just blew up, and I'm like,
yeah,
we got
to,
but like, do we? I don't. So
I've told you my opinions on this. We don't need to talk about him,
right?
What he's done. Although we need to give context.
Right.
I'll let you do that.
Right. All right. So the story we're not talking about, but talking tangentially to, talking close to.
Talking about the effects of.
We're talking behind its back, and I feel like that is scriptural deep down. No. John Crist, article came out by Charisma News detailing multiple cases of sexual harassment, other inappropriate activities of a sexual nature, and just everything else going on. And it spelled out a ton to the point that John Crist issued a statement and canceled the other dates to his 2019 tour. Other details as to his 2020 performances and appearances, those are still up in the air. I know he was also scheduled to speak at a Winter Jam that starts in January, I think.
Like, is Winter Jam a tour?
Yeah.
Okay, so he would be going to all of them?
Yeah, he goes to a lot of them, yeah. Or he would have been. But they're not clear if that's going to happen at this point, just because he's stepping down. And to his credit, I'm not... okay, I'm just going to say it. To his credit, he's also admitted to trying to get therapy and other things to have because he has a sex addiction. So that's the context.
Yeah.
So now we don't want to talk about any of that. Like, right?
Although we just did, which is what I didn't want to do. but you understand what we're saying.
No, that's not. No, that's not talking about it. I'm not going to say, is it wrong? Should we condemn him? That's not what we're doing.
Yeah, but like basically, we are going to talk about how we as Christians should handle I would say it's kind of a new thing on the publicity of public Christians sinning and the effects of that and how we should handle it and how we can be the most biblically accurate like response to that. And I think that's important in this case because I think people are taking it wrong. And just to like give a bit of input on it, like I think that John Crist is just like every single one of us.
Right.
And the only difference is that everyone has his eyes are like on him, and there's similar effects with like, you know, Kanye in that, and in that like, there's a lot of drama of him becoming a new Christian because he is in the public eye.
Right.
And that's really all it is.
It's that idea of professional Christian.
Right, which isn't true.
Everybody needs to be a public Christian. There actually isn't such a thing as a private Christian where a person is a Christian and nobody knows about it. That goes against the very foundations of salvation, where confession is an open process of, I'm not a private Christian. I'm open about the faith I have, because how can I say I love Christ if I'm not actually saying that to anyone?
Yep.
I mean, there is a confessional aspect to it that I'm outpouring it. So, everybody's a public Christian. There are some people, and this is a bad term that I've coined, but their job is, in a sense, tied to their faith.
Yeah.
You know, they're these rock star Christians. I get not even that. That's not even the best term either. But they're the public nature of their faith puts them in a different, not category, but classification. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, and that happens to pastors too. I mean, as churches get to a certain kind of a size that people get their podcasts and all that, they're under a different amount of scrutiny, good or bad. Yeah. They're definite under a different amount of scrutiny. I mean,
and in this case, I'm just gonna debunk this. He's not a pastor. Don't hold him to a pastoral. Like he's a Christian.
Right.
It's just like me and you. I mean, we're nowhere near what John Crist is.
Almost there, buddy. Our Netflix special is the week after. Boom.
But like I said, we're nowhere near that. But we are putting ourselves out there, so like a lot of people might tie our faith to us and call us leaders of some sort or teachers, which is not true to us. You know what I mean? Like,
get out. What are you doing?
Yeah, you have the qualifications. Well, I mean, you know.
You are also a teacher. Yes. I affirm you, Caleb. Hold on. Pause the tape for a minute, Caleb. I affirm you.
Thanks. I guess.
I don't know what else I was going to say. Just cycled through everything I could say after that. Went, nah, this
but basically,
too far.
Like he's not a pastor, and he's not leading people.
Right. He's a comedian.
Yeah, he's a comedian.
Right.
But basically, I don't really want to talk about that because, like, once again.
Well, yeah. I mean, there isn't anything to say.
I don't want to talk about his personal sin, although I encourage the steps he's taken, and I'm not acknowledging like it's something to just blow off, but
to be clear, it's bad. He did a sin bad.
Also,
I don't know how people
look
are
in the
milking
mirror.
This. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of it. Is people are milking this story, and everyone has to give their thoughts on it and on the actual story. And I'm not trying. It sounds like I'm trying to do that. I'm not. But it's like, is anyone on the other side of this argument? John Crist isn't on the other side of this argument. Like, no, it's actually okay what he did. No one is saying that. So why is everyone at the amount of anger that He's like, I can't believe he do. I can't. People sin. People sin all the time.
Yep.
It happens. And there was I wrote it down. It was a great quote, and I don't remember where it came from, and I can't cite it. So good for me. Add plagiarism to my sin. But the idea of Christianity isn't to stare at people, but to stare at Christ. And all the actions I have, they're, the goal I have as a Christian is to point to Christ, and I'm not going to do that 100% of the time. Even Paul didn't do that. Paul said, follow me as I'm following Christ. That's a conditional statement.
Yep.
In the event that
I am
my
not
stupid butt is somehow following Christ, that's the time you want to be following me. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Like, if I'm heading towards Jesus, it's okay to come alongside.
An important note, like last night at students, we were talking about at my church. I get like
no really, at all student groups. We were talking about this.
It's not the topic that student minister was talking about is that it was specifically talking inside family, but this applies to everything. That we were talking about family is broken because it has broken people in it.
Yeah,
and that goes with the world. The world, is it's full of broken people, and when you get broken people around each other, there's just going to be brokenness. And God is the one that redeems that. But while we are here on earth, we still have to pay the penalties for our sin. But it's important to note that, people are already forgiven. But I was telling my 6th grade boys that, like, you need to expect in life that things are just going to go wrong,
Yeah, right.
In your relationships.
Right.
It's best that you know that and be prepared for things going wrong.
Right.
Like, nothing is ever going to be perfect. It may be for, like, a period of time.
Right.
But sinners be sinners, and they be sinning.
And our hope is that the more I become like Christ, the less I struggle through sins. I was actually just thinking about this today. I don't think I've done almost 35 years of sins. I think I've done one sin for like 35 years. I don't think it's fundamentally changed. It's gotten better. It's ebbed and flowed. It's gone up and down. But overall, kind of the sin's just kind of the same sin I've been working through.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know if that's comforting or not. I haven't gotten to that part yet, but it just, the idea of needing to be perfect is something I'm not going to get to until I get to heaven.
Right.
And there needs to be grace and discipline in the church, but discipline in a sense that it holds each other up instead of just beats each other down and goes to infighting again. Because that's the thing going on in this, the thing going on in the other story I brought up. There is a ton of just Christian infighting going on that is bad for the family.
Right.
And it's starting to wear me down. And as this story broke,
I know, right?
I texted and said, like, I don't even know what to say here.
Yeah. Because
it's like, what is there to say?
Yeah. And it's just crazy. It's crazy to me that the people who are, like, most, and it's annoying, but the people who are most, like, unforgiving and least graceful or, giving out grace are Christians.
Right.
And it's really odd to me on why that is.
Right.
But I've been noticing that, like, a lot lately, even in my own self. Like, and once again, it's because we are all, we've all fallen and short of the glory of God, and that's because of sin. But it's been crazy to just see, like, the effects of that, and in, like, multiple areas of my life, not even just, like, this public scene and public stuff, but just, like, everywhere I see it.
Right.
And it's something that I don't know, like, I'm sure it's been around always. I mean, like, but it just seems like it's gone up.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely been more animosity in the church, I feel. Or the differences are starting to widen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's problematic.
Yeah.
But I think the same problem that's causing that is also the same problem causing a fair amount of the problems in this story. And I'm just going to talk about it as public laundry dumping of sin. I think the problem is that everyone's busy staring at the other person, that they're not taking time to check their own heart.
Mm-hmm.
That's really bad phrasing, given the circumstances.
Nice.
Oh, I just made a really good point and then pooped all over it. Just big poop. Nobody's taking the time to like actually stare at their own stuff. I mean, it's easy to have this kind of anger towards a person, and I'm not defending him, but it's easy to do that because he's an easy target at this point. And there's plenty of people that are upset and angry about this that have the same sin going on, but for a brief moment they get to just dump it on another person instead of trying to actually deal with their own stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, even if they're not struggling with that sin, you're struggling with sin.
Right.
And no matter how big or small, you're still just as...
Right.
I mean, of course, you're forgiven, which is why we should forgive.
Right.
But you had the same penalty as everyone else. And I believe that we're going to see...
If you sin, it doesn't get aired out on Charisma News.
You know, I believe that we're going to see all these people in heaven, and it's going to be great. And it's just useless, like everything that we're doing now.
Right.
And I'm going to see... I mean, I can't say it for sure, obviously, but I'm fairly positive I'm going to see John Crist in heaven.
Yeah.
And at that point, we're going to look back at this moment and be like, wow, that was really dumb. Because, like...
I have an eternity to forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a very long time. Yeah.
Why are we doing this when we could be surrounding him and being like, hey, we love you still.
Right.
Of course.
And to be clear, also the girls that have been affected by this, they need the same outpouring of grace upon them also. They are too hurt. They hurt, they're in pain, and they need the church to walk them through this, because to a few of them it was traumatizing. There's one of them that has kind of abandoned the faith because of it. And I'll be honest, I wasn't like super planning on talking about this. I did put it down in the notes, but I was half and half on it. That for me is the kind of thing that like keeps me up at night. The whole, did I do a thing that caused a person to doubt their faith or turn their back on church? And that the problem is that you spend enough time in ministry, quote unquote, and if you want to know how I feel about that, please check out our previous episode on that word. If you spend enough time in this, you're not gonna nail 100%. And there's gonna be a thing. And there's a few I can think of that I either came close or did affect a person negative in the faith that it sucks to think that that's a thing you could do. But in truth, I mean, I'm in ministry, quote unquote, but everyone's in ministry, and all of us need to stop and take a moment to think through, where are the areas in my own life that I'm making a negative impact on the world of the gospel, instead of just kind of trying to heap on to somebody else because they're more public. Okay, what about that person at school that that really hates church because of how Christians treated him. I mean, that was the story of Marilyn Manson, actually. People at church treated him so poor, he turned into the person he turned in. He hates God, hates the church, thinks they're a bunch of jerks. I can't think of the exact wording, I'm sorry, but he wants nothing to do with them because of how they abused him in the church. And it's like...
Right. Yeah. And I mean...
Yeah. I mean,
that's why...
that keeps me up, just thinking about a few of those.
But I mean, it's something that I don't think should. I mean, I think it's something that sucks, obviously.
Yep.
Sorry, did I just say that word? Oh, no. Crap. Oh, no. I'm just kidding. I just did that purely for Danny's sake.
I'm bleeping
it. But, like, I think that we need to love everyone the best we can, but also know that
right,
it's not always going to go well.
Right, yeah.
And that also God is sovereign.
Right.
And he chose that to happen for a reason.
Right. Well,
that is beyond...
There is an account we're going to have to give for that, but I'm not claiming it's not going to happen, though. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, I mean...
You know.
And, I mean, it's like... We need to watch our words, and we've have a whole podcast on that. And it's like... I don't know, it's such a difficult... Yeah. You look at the camera, and you Jim
we
the camera.
need to watch our words.
I'm sorry to anyone who was offended by my language in the past minute.
6 minutes.
But I mean, it's such a tricky thing, and I feel like, you know, yeah, we have to watch that, but also know that there's nothing we can do about the past.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. That's what I'm trying to say. Watch
we can
the
grow
future.
from it, though. That's the point I'm trying to get at, is you have to grow from it. I mean, those times that I screwed up have been, to be honest, really formative moments, because I was able to stare at the damage done and go, okay, never again is that going to happen.
Right.
And that became important. I had to grow out of that, change things because of that. You know, and then some of them, the weird part is, and this is kind of hard to explain without giving the details, which I can't, some of them, things I did, a person pushed back on and got hurt by, and I stand by them fully, as things that needed to be done and said. You know, this person and I are fine now, but it was rough for a bit. But overall, though, that's the effect we can have on people of being able to impact their understanding of gospel based on how I treat them.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to just pile on this other person, I think people, they need to stop and take a peek at their own sin and their own filth.
I think that that's part of going into, I'm going to read a verse here in a second.
Cool.
But like on how should we, like I said, how should we respond to these, and what should we do when someone sins and it comes out publicly? And honestly, I think
them.
It is, I think the first step is we need to extend grace in all areas, whether it's to that person,
right,
whether it's to the people who are affected by that. But also, like, I think the main point of it is to reflect on ourselves, and that's kind of what Jesus shows us here in this verse. It's from John 8:2-11, and I'll read it right now. Early in the morning, he came again to the temple. All the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and placing her in the midst, they said to him, "Teacher, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. So what do you say?" This they said to test him, that they might have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger on the ground. And as they continued to ask him, he stood up and said to them, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her." And once more he bent down and wrote on the ground. But when they heard it, they went away one by one, beginning with the older ones. And Jesus was left alone with a woman standing before him. Jesus stood up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, Lord." And Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on sin no more." And that's crazy, crazy important.
Right.
And I think that verse sums up what we should do.
Right.
Not only for people who are in the public, but for people who are around us in our day-to-day life.
Right.
Is that when you see someone sinning, you need to first love them and extend grace.
Right.
And then reflect on yourself and be like, whoa, okay. I mean, like, it should be a thing that teaches us that should be a reminder to look at ourselves, evaluate our sins, and to better ourselves. Not so that might not happen to us, that public shame might not happen, although that's, a good thing to not sin. That's, something that won't happen.
Yeah.
But mainly to grow closer to God through that, to be able to, grow in wisdom. And I think it's interesting too. I'd never even noticed this, that said beginning with the older ones. That they are the ones that were like, oh crap, that's something that I guess I can't condemn her.
Older ones, more time to sin, Yeah.
And I mean, there's more wisdom there.
Yeah. No, this is a great parable, and so clearly applies to this. But there's a few parts of it that I've always thought are really cool. I mean, first of all, Jesus never told her everything that you did is fine and there's no problem. She is straight up guilty, and it's never acknowledged anything other than that. And I mean, she was caught in the act,
right?
And they have everything they need as far as Old Testament standard. It's been met. As far, they have witnesses, because caught in the act, you have witnesses.
Yep.
So he never tells her everything that you did is fine. He never says that. Another thing, and that's important because she is guilty, just as all of us are guilty. I mean, our goal is to be very similar to Christ, but let's be honest, more times than not, we're the woman. So, is there a person there that is eligible to throw stones at her?
No.
Incorrect.
I mean, well, yeah.
There is absolutely, and that is the crux of the entire thing.
You got me.
There is a person there who is 100% eligible to start just picking up stones. Like, this is totally justified, and it is, because by his conditions, by the old covenant conditions, everything says that it would be okay if Jesus took up stones and said, "It's go time." But he doesn't do that, and that's the biggest part, because it stops being about punishment and about bringing people to wholeness. It was still an option, and gotta kind of understand that as everybody is going, a woman is just staring at this person who's still there, and the first thing he says is, "Where are the accusers?"
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing that. And
I'm not one of them, yeah.
And it's because Christ, although eligible to off us quickly, chose instead to bear the punishment on himself in order that I don't have to stay in that thing I had been. I mean, at the end, the statement Jesus tells her is, there's no condemnation here. Now go and don't sin again.
Yeah.
As in, you are free to not do that thing.
Yep.
The prison
that wasn't an option before.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a dead end.
The prison is the sin.
Right.
And at this point, the gates are open, and it's like, you're good.
Yeah. And I mean, another thing that sticks out to me in this is the word condemnation. Because I feel like, especially, I mean, I used to think that condemnation and being guilty were the same thing, which, I mean, kind of, but not really. But basically, I mean, it sticks out to me because...
Somewhat, yeah.
It's such a... We as Christians, that's what we do to people. It's not that we are unforgiving or, unloving. It's that we condemn people straight up. And the definition of condemned is unfit for use, which means that it is no longer able to, there's... it's done. That's the end.
Right.
No one's going to be able to redeem that. And that's kind of what we see, and especially when sin becomes public like this.
Yeah.
It's the first thing we try and do is like,
right.
Oh, well, I guess
I guess he's not a real Christian then.
Yeah. And it's
dude. Yeah.
It's so bad. And I think that it's just, I mean, that's what Jesus came to do, is to, we were, condemned. We were actually, that is where we started off, is in condemnation, like for real condemnation. Right. But Jesus came, and he died on the cross so that didn't have to be the only option. And
it's kind of this idea, though, that if our first reaction to seeing the public broken nature of people is to break it more, then frankly that's not gospel. That's just a butcher.
Yep.
I mean, to see a person be dragged out in public square and then to condemn them, you can't really say I'm being Christ-like in this manner when literally that's the opposite of what happened in this story.
Yeah.
They drug a person out public and exposed her shame to everyone, and Christ said, I'm not condemning that. I'm dying so that you can live.
Yep. And imagine what the change of not only like ourselves, but what everyone else sees of Christians would be like.
Right.
If when we responded to these scenarios and instead of condemnation, being there.
Yeah.
And I think it shows so much of like how powerful the gospel is, how powerful what Jesus did is, because because it seems completely illogical. I mean, it does. Like it seems like, okay, this person did this terrible thing.
Turn on them. Yeah.
They're done. You know, like I don't see how Jesus saved that piece of garbage. It's like, but, and I think it would be such a testament to other people to see us do the opposite.
Right.
But I mean,
so in these kinds of cases, I think it's important that, I mean, especially if it's public, pray for that person. I mean, I can't call up every pastor that has a crisis of faith and say, hey man, I saw the article in the news, and do you want to talk about it? Can I help disciple through this? Because he's gonna be like, who are you? And I'd be like, I'm a co-host on a very small podcast, worldwide. Or no, I'm not gonna say that. Never mind. I almost got sassy. I apologize. But I can pray for them, and then instead of trying to ruin this man and end everything, give the church an opportunity to take him through the discipleship process, the process of bringing everything whole. And then also the people that are affected by this, pray for them too. This is a messy kind of a thing that not only the offender's business got dragged out, but now all their business got dragged out also and publicized. And even if they gave permission for that to happen, it's still got to be hard to just have all of that private aspect of things just dumped out. So pray for them too, because this is going to be challenging to them. And it's very... There's a way to go about this that I think, and I know that you have thoughts on this, and I'm interested in them, that I feel a fair amount of these Christian news places get very, very wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a huge problem with Christian news places. I can't stand them because every article I read, it's taking this thing that, like, if a pastor, screws up, I mean, it's taking it and blowing it out of proportion. Like, when a pastor screws up, they already have to deal with their congregation, having to go through that and mourn with them. And having to bring that to a nationwide, worldwide playing field is just really annoying to me. And it seems just wrong. But I mean, like...
And they bypass the standards of confrontation for the sake of journalism. Right. And that's problematic. I mean, it's... to me, this falls under the same criteria of a Christian doesn't bring another Christian to court because it airs out the dirty business. Instead, it needs to be handled in-house as one Christian to another under the unity of Christ. That, to me, also in concept applies to this, because these locations don't just go out to Christians, they go out to everybody. Right. And other places are starting to pick up the story because it's a big story, and now the only thing people have is another opportunity. Oh, look at the Christians, they're all the same, blah 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 blah. And they bypassed the structures on how to approach a person caught in a sin in order to be a journalist first. And I think, to be honest, that's problematic. If they're...
And I think that, I mean, obviously you could probably see this podcast and think the same thing, although our audience is way smaller. But I mean, like, I hope, and if we don't, call us out for it.
We walk
I hope
the
that
line.
we walk our line, and and that we don't set out to talk about this thing that's going on for talking about its sake, and to get it out there. That we talk about it so we can learn from it, so that we can
walk through it
together, and see what how we can extend grace and love to this person or whatever's gone on. Right. And it's just annoying that
part of our process is understanding, all right, if I am here, if this is the actual place that I am at, what is our next step after that? Right. And instead of going, wow, did you see what your boy did?
Crazy, right?
Stuff's messed up,
Yeah, that guy's terrible.
Yeah. So sorry, I cut you off. I apologize.
But I mean, that's kind of like, all of these Christian media places are just really annoying me lately, because it's just, and I wouldn't even say I've realized it until like recently. Right. On like the weird like thing that they're compromising on. It's like it's such a, I don't know. I think sin should be handled on a personal level with the person that you have sinned against and God. Right. Like Matthew 18 says, that's how we should do these things. And when you have sinned against someone, and it's just annoying to just take that immediately and see it, and then someone's like, okay, guess we got to write an article on this and publish. Oh, right. Oh, yeah, they're done, basically, because, that's how things work.
I'm a Christian before I am a podcaster, a blogger, and a pastor. Right. I'm a Christian first. And if I can't do that, then frankly, I don't deserve to be the other three. Not that I'm going to get it perfect every time, but that's the place I'm at for that. Right. I should be a Christian first in order to be a better blogger, podcaster, and all these things. I mean, and I'll be honest, there have been times that's been a fine line on in this podcast and in the blog and everything else of what does and doesn't gets talked about, and we probably haven't done that perfect, but still, the focus has been what are the next steps to walk through this, and that is kind of the standard. Am I telling this to stir up the drama, or am I telling this to walk people through the drama?
Right.
And that's a messy territory because it's walking into the messiness of mankind. But overall, we do our best.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But, I mean, moral of the story, don't throw the stone.
Right.
Because you're not worthy of the stone. Only Jesus is worthy of the stone.
Is that a movie? You're not worthy of the stone?
No.
So
I was trying to like Thor's hammer, you know.
Oh, I needed the accent. Can I get the accent?
You're not worthy.
Now do Fat Thor.
It sounds the same, literally.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see. Yeah, no, that was. I don't know. I had thoughts. The problem is for this one, I just really didn't have thoughts.
Yeah.
I was just like, sucks.
We wanted to have a happier topic, but I think that this is a good. We're, you know, if you're deciding whether or not to talk about John Crist in the full glory of the thing per se, and
none of those words were accurate.
Yeah,
none of
together.
Those words.
But you know what I'm trying to say.
Full and glory.
But like, we thought it was more important to take a step because to see how we should navigate through stories like this.
And part of this, I mean, this, can we get meta? Are we allowed to get meta?
We can get meta, I guess. What type of meta?
I almost spiked this story 30 minutes before we taped. I mean, I mean that's where we were. Is like I almost spiked it like I'm ABC. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'm really sorry. Partially because of I was talking to a person about this, and they brought up a dude needs prayer, and as Christians we should be able to pray for him. And I'm like, that's it. That's what I want to say. Is like, as Christians, we pray for people who are struggling and in a need, because at some point I'm going to struggle and I'm going to be in a need and I'm going to need prayer, and please don't start throwing stones at me in a metaphorical or literal sense. I bruise like a peach. It's not. Gosh, I'm so glad stoning isn't a thing in America, because I would go down way faster than what would be deemed acceptable by society. It's like 3 hits. Ow! Like, is he dead already? Yeah. It's just, that was, he's a mushy creature. Like,
oh my gosh.
Like,
gross.
That was not difficult.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, but
I bruise like a peach.
Moral of the story, I mean, if I'm going to put it in steps for you guys, number 1, I mean, you guys are smart.
Go about your life. This probably doesn't affect you.
Yeah. I mean, but
can I just drop this? Can I just...
Like Jesus pointed out, you know, when we see things like this, pray for them, love them, extend grace. That's step 1.
To all parties.
Yeah, all parties involved. Because we were supposed to love all. And number 2, reflect on yourself. Let this be a reminder that you are dealing with
sin, dirty sinner. Yes.
And let it be a way for you to remember the gospel, and what Jesus has done for you, and I think that'll even more fuel the first step.
We've been saved from so much.
Maybe that should be the first step.
3-step plan. I'll give you the third phase of the second step.
Third phase
Colored
is
tabs.
Flip those 2 steps.
And then play this podcast backwards for a secret message.
Oof, those are always so creepy. And
they
like
really
anyone
are.
Talking in reverse.
Yep.
It sounds like Satan.
Right. People have said that about a few bands. Oh man, if you play it back, it sounds as if he's summoning demons. If you play anything backwards,
Yeah.
it sounds like he's summoning demons because it's just wrong. It's just wrong.
It is. Yeah, there's something about... I wonder if there's something spiritual in that. Like the nature of our words flowing the opposite direction. And I don't know. That's probably dumb. But I'm curious because there's something eerie about it.
I don't know if it's...
Very eerie.
I wouldn't say it's spiritual. I might say it's a bit kind of a psychological thing because it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's just wrong.
Have you ever tried to, like, you record... I used to do it. Me and my family used to do this as a kid. As kids, I mean, I was probably... They were adults.
Yes,
at the
it
time.
was 3 weeks ago.
I'm a baby, all right?
It was 3 weeks ago as your mom was in town. Yes, I got you.
But you record yourself saying, like, the word spoon, and then you play it backwards, and you learn how to say it backwards, and then you record yourself saying it backwards, and then flip it again to try and, like, hear you say it, like, correct. You see what I'm saying? It's a fun game to see how, like, perfect you can get it.
I'm busy thinking of the word noops right now.
And it's not like you're even saying a word. You just, like, start to recreate the noises. It sounds like
Noops.
But it's a fun thing to do. You should try it sometime.
The only time I did that is for that Missy Elliott song, which probably has just revealed way too much about me.
Wow.
And if that's a joke that you get, then you need Jesus too. So take it.
But I think that's it. But
hey, if anyone, ask
we're
me.
flipping
Sorry,
the script. We're
all right,
flipping the script, guys.
Flip that script. Ask
Hey,
me.
Danny. I'm gonna try and say it like you do. Hey, Danny. Where can they find our podcast and ask questions? Question mark.
Do I sound like that every week? I tuned you out halfway through. That's bad.
Wow.
No. Go to thegospelpost.com/nobody special, fill out the form and say, hey, I have Bible questions, say hi,
Yes.
or I need some advice.
We love to hear from you guys.
No one has taken us up on the advice thing yet. I think one person did.
I don't think you should.
No, one person did. So, hey, hit me with your best shot, and we'll see what we can come up with.
Hit me with your best shot.
Also, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Nobody Special Podcast.
Yes, do that.
And be sure on Tuesdays, the YouTube of this comes out at the Gospel Outpost. So be sure, subscribe, hit the bell. No, ding the bell.
Ding the bell.
Gently.
Ding, like it's a counter
We don't
bell.
need another Liberty Bell.
Like it's a counter bell in a library. You're trying to get the attendant, but you don't want to be too loud, so you just like lightly ding. And you know how like when you do it, it's like...
If a library puts a
dink.
bell on the desk, it does not apply to the standards of the library. You come in like, I need books, ding! That is fine.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely. But those are the places that you can find us, so please be sure and check us out and share us with friends because Caleb and I are cheap and we're not going to advertise yet. Yet.
I don't think we have the financial capability to advertise. I wouldn't
just
say it's
don't
that we're
want to.
cheap.
Well,
I would say
We're
we're
both.
incapable.
I know how much I spent on these microphones.
Yeah.
We're a little bit cheap.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll start a Patreon. No, I'm
No,
kidding.
don't
We're not
do
doing a Patreon.
I'm not gonna
So anyway,
stoop that low.
are we flipping the script?
Yeah. So I think that's gonna do it for us today. So Danny, why don't you wait, no, it's not. Let's go.
Yeah, hard, isn't it?
I'm Caleb.
And I'm Danny.
We are
Nobody special.